guys, I'm Laura Vitale. On this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I'm going to show you how I make my prosciutto and spinach stuffed pork tenderloin with a roasted garlic gravy. It is delicious, perfect for this time of year, for a dinner party, or it's even really a great alternative to, say, a whole turkey or a ham for Thanksgiving. This is just a great, more simple, less time consuming and less stressful than, say a big turkey. So let me take you over the ingredients so we can get started. You're gonna need some pork tenderloin, and I'll talk about this in just a minute, some prosciutto, some shredded mozzarella, some frozen spinach that I've thawed and squeezed out of any liquid, some Parmigiano Reggiano, which is just Parmesan cheese that I've grated myself, and salt, pepper, and olive oil. Those are just the ingredients to make the actual pork tenderloin. But before we get going on that, we've got to get going on roasting the garlic for the gravy. Now, the first thing you want to do is get your oven preheated to 425. Now that you have that ready, you need a whole head of garlic. I'm just gonna cut it right in half, like so, just so that the cloves are exposed. I'm gonna drizzle some olive oil all over them. That looks good. Now just wrap it up and stick this into the oven because it needs to be in there for about 45 minutes. I'm going to do that, wash my hands, and I'm going to be right back here. Now, what I've got here are 2 pieces of pork tenderloin. They're at 1.5 pounds each. Now, the first time I made this, I actually made this with boneless skin-on turkey breast halves that were pretty big, and then I butterflied them, pounded them thinly, and did exactly the same thing. Then the next time I did it with turkey tenderloin, and then the next time after that, I did it with pork because that's what I was able to find. So if you're wanting to make this for Thanksgiving, but you want to stick to the traditional turkey, then I suggest you go ahead and get just a really big turkey breast or a turkey tenderloin. But if you want to go a little bit different, you can just use a pork tenderloin. I mean, I know people do ham for Thanksgiving as well, so it's not that off the path here. But let's get going. So what I need to do to this is butterfly it, and because this needs to be stuffed. So what I'm going to do with a really sharp knife is I'm going to cut this in half, but not going all the way through. I'm going about 3/4 of the way through and opening it up like a book, just like so. See that? Once you have that done, what I then do is just score it right there, right here. And now I'm just going to take this, cover it with a piece of plastic wrap, because we need to pound this until it's really thin, a lot thinner than it is right now. So just cover this as best as you can, and using a meat mallet, you're going to go ahead and pound it until it's about 1/4 inch thick. Now I have one done, so I'm going to just start on this one. You want to make sure you wash your hands after you pound it out. Now I'm going to lay the pieces of prosciutto. It'll take about 2 pieces each, 2.5, depending on how your prosciutto is sliced. You kind of just want to cover the tenderloin with the prosciutto. I can see that I'm going to need to get a little bit more out of the fridge, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect whatsoever. It's all going to just taste delicious. So once you have that done, you're going to take some of the spinach, and I just like to put it like kind of more on one side so it's kind of easier to roll up, if that makes sense. Just stick to it one edge here, and the spinach just needs a little bit of olive oil and just a touch of salt and pepper because it's just steamed spinach. I mean, it doesn't have a whole ton of flavor, so we just want to make sure we flavor it just a little bit, even though it's going to get plenty of flavor from the prosciutto and the mozzarella, which I'm then going to take and just scatter. Now, I've done this with goat cheese. I've done this with mascarpone. I've done this a lot of different ways. I've done a stuffed pork tenderloin in tons of different ways. But I just kind of wanted to keep it a little bit more basic, a little bit on the easier side. Because as we all know, I mean, the holidays are just filled with things to do. And I just wanted to keep this as simple as possible for you guys. But I feel free to leave down below how you like your stuffed turkey or pork tenderloin, and I would definitely work on a recipe for you. But for now, you just need to take this and roll it back up kind of the way that it was, and that's it. It's very simple and it's very easy. You have one done. You just need to take some kitchen twine and just tie it in like 4 places, a couple inches apart from each other. Okay, so I have one done. I'm going to set this aside and work on the second one, and at the same time I'm going to preheat this large skillet over about medium-high heat because I want to give this a nice amount of color. I'm just going to get going on the second one. My tenderloins are ready. My skillet here, I've been preheating over medium-high heat with a few tablespoons of olive oil, and that is nice and ready. Now I'm just going to season these with salt and pepper on one side, and then I'm going to just put these down. I'm actually going to cook, I'm going to do it one at a time. I'm going to wash my hands, season this side, and then just cook these for about, I don't know, take about 5 minutes total until they've got a nice golden brown color on all sides, and then put them on a baking sheet that I've lined with aluminum foil, and then I'll do the second one and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. These look fantastic. Look at that. Can't wait to dig into those. Now, don't wash that skillet because that's where we're going to make the gravy in. But in the meantime, these have to go into the oven at 425. They'll roast in there for about 45 to 50 minutes. It really depends. Make sure you have a meat thermometer on hand because you're looking for the internal temperature to be about 160 degrees. So once it's there, take them out and I'll show you what to do next. Now my pork tenderloin was in the oven roasting for about 45 minutes, and I'm tenting it with some aluminum foil just to kind of keep it warm and just kind of reinforces the juices to stay in. And I'm not going to cut it for about 20 minutes for that purpose because I want those juices to stay in, and if I were to cut it right now, all the juices would kind of run out and then the meat would be dry. There was no point in making that. So in the same skillet, I haven't washed it or anything because there's still good flavor in there. I'm going to put it over about medium-high heat. Into that, I'm going to add in some unsalted butter, and I'm going to wait for this to melt. I've also taken my garlic out of the oven that we were roasting. I took the actual cloves out, and I've smashed it, and it's ready right here. So I'm just going to wait for my butter to be completely melted. After that, I'm going to add in some all-purpose flour. I'm actually going to switch to a whisk. This is just a silicone whisk. And I'm going to whisk it together and cook it for about a minute because I want that raw flour taste to cook away, because what we're essentially making is a roux, which is the thickener to the gravy. That looks good. I'm going to deglaze it now with some white wine, and if you don't drink alcohol, you can completely leave it out and just add in a little bit more beef broth, but I'm going to add some in. I'm just going to wait for this to reduce for about a minute. I'm going to add some beef broth a little bit at a time, because I want this to be thick, but I also want it to be quite runny because I want to spoon the sauce when I cut the tenderloin. I want to be able to spoon the sauce right over the top. So that's why I don't want it to be too thick. Just keep stirring it. You want it lump free. And a little bit more stock. That looks good. At this point, I'm also going to add in the garlic. I'm going to let that kind of all cook together for just a few minutes or until the sauce thickens, and I'll show you how to finish it. That looks really good. I just want to season it with some salt and pepper, and then I'm also going to add in my herbs and pretty much turn this off because this gravy is so quick to make, and I love that about stovetop gravies because you don't have to kind of cook your turkey bones in a separate pot. It just kind of everything in one pan. Super easy. You can make this on a weeknight. You don't have to like have an entire day just to make the gravy, which I know I've done, and I regret. So that's done. Turning that off. My tenderloin has been sitting here tented for a bit, so now it's time to slice. Looks great. I'm going to put it on my board one at a time. I'm going to get rid of the string first. And make sure you use your thermometer and you test it because you don't want to undercook pork ever. Just finished cutting my second one. It is so juicy. I'm like so excited to eat this. I think, that's the number one thing people I think are always so concerned about when it comes to pork tenderloin, or any kind of tenderloin really, that it's going to be dry. The trick is always to cook it to 160 degrees. And if you have a meat thermometer, then that should be easy to do. And if you just check it, at the thickest part of the actual part of the tenderloin, and it reaches 160 degrees, and then you tent it for about 15 minutes, I'm telling you, it always comes out perfect. Now I'm just going to drizzle some of this over the top, and then I'll serve the rest of it on the side. This just kind of keeps it moist and adds to the flavor. That looks fantastic. I'm gonna give it a bite, but I'm gonna take this one right here. Kind of try to hide the evidence, I guess. Just spoon a little bit more of the sauce. A good piece of pork tenderloin that doesn't need a knife to cut it means it's a very juicy piece. That is phenomenal. You can serve it for Thanksgiving, you can serve it for just a really simple yet elegant dinner party. Whatever you serve it for, I guarantee you're going to have a lot of happy campers on your hands. And if you want to get the recipe, go to laurinthekitchen.com. It'll be there waiting for you. And like I said, don't forget you can use exactly the same recipe with your turkey breast, like a really big fat one, and you can pound it out, or with a turkey tenderloin or even beef tenderloin. It's completely up to you. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.